right, I'm calling to order the City of Hayden, Idaho Planning and Zoning Meeting. It is September the 18th and it is 5:07. May I get a roll call of commissioners, please?
Keith Gibson.
Present.
Mary Howard.
Present.
Ben Prickett.
Present.
Joel Johnson.
Here.
Brandon Bemis.
Here.
Sean Taylor.
Here.
Alan Davis.
I am here. Would you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Joel, would you lead us, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and do we have any calls for conflict, or do we have any conflicts of interest for tonight's meeting from any of the commissioners?
No.
Hearing none, the next item up is the consent calendar, which only consists of meeting minutes of June 20, 2023. Is there a need for discussion, or do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept the meeting minutes as presented.
Okay, there's a motion that's been thrown out. Have we got a second?
Second.
There is a second. All in favor indicate so verbally. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, let's roll into new business, which consists of the 2023 Citizen Survey Results presentation by the city.
All right, good evening, everyone. It's been a while since I've been to P&Z fully. I'll stop by, but you guys are all here. I just wanted to personally thank you for serving on planning and zoning, because you have somewhat of a thankless job. And you have to spend some time preparing for this meeting. And anyways, the city appreciates you, and you guys are awesome. You really are. You make, I think you make great decisions. So tonight, we're going to go through a citizen survey that we conducted at the end of May, and a report was given to the council in June. And then we've been doing a little bit of work on the comp plan. And so this is an important tool for planning and zoning to be able to use as well. I didn't make a full copy of the survey for everyone, partially because this is an interactive or a survey that you can go in online and you can actually modify the findings, so to speak, meaning you can go in and you could change it to what did all female, how did they respond? Or how did the folks in this area respond? And I'll show you how you can do that. And this citizen survey dashboard is on our website. So anybody can go there and you can utilize it however you would like. But anyway, some of the information on here will be helpful in making decisions, and that was partially the purpose in doing the survey. And so hopefully you'll find it interesting and helpful as you move forward.
Brett, just a question for
Yes.
Fonda. Is there anything, I know that obviously the comprehensive plan is not going to call out the citizen survey dashboard, but is there ever a reason that we would refer to it when we do a standards of approval evaluation?
That you would refer to
Any results or
the
just?
survey results?
Right. In other
No,
words, we would not be obligated to do
not
that.
as you sit right now. Now, if the survey results somehow become incorporated as an attachment to the comprehensive plan, it would be something you would consider.
As part of the
but,
comp plan.
Yeah, yes,
Thank you
as
very
part of the
much.
comprehensive plan. Yes.
And there has been discussion of doing that. Obviously, it's early to say that's going to happen or not. So this is, I think it is helpful information, particularly in the growth areas. As we go through the survey, the two main areas that I think are important for you are questions related to growth, and then the other is related to roads.
Brett, if you do a control plus, will that still fit?
Just Control Plus. What will I lose if I do that?
Nothing, it'll just blow it up.
Like that?
That was minus. You could also use the pull down, that was minus again.
That made it a little bigger.
Did it?
Well, I'll put it back. That's,
Just change the percentage up on the top right.
Yeah, the top right where it says 68, if you
Yeah,
can,
that'd be awesome.
or, yeah, I can drag it. There.
Oh, boy. There you go.
Oh, yeah, much.
there we go.
That's- Oh, yeah.
Wonder if there's any way to
Almost
shrink.
better. It goes back.
All right,
I'm losing a little bit when I
it's a
do
little
it.
better.
A little bit,
Just easier to read, that's all.
okay. So I did
Jules
provide
and
you just one summary sheet that you can take with you. The background here was we hired OnPoint Insights to do the survey, and we spent several months with the council going through and coming up with the questions, modifying what it was that they wanted to ask. The broader questions, there was, you'll see there's a refer a friend rating, direction of city, quality of life ratings, thoughts about city growth, valuation of city attributes, comp plan was mentioned, future housing options, traffic intersection improvements, community center was an interesting one as well, and areas of focus for the city. We received actually close to 1,200 responses in the survey, which is pretty good. Our population, not all of the folks that responded lived in the city, but that is called out, assuming people were honest in their answers. The guy that did this is able to also go through and look at IP addresses and make sure there weren't more than 2 per IP address. And so he did some scanning to try to make sure that our responses were not somebody coming in and doing 50, from one household or something.
Was the technology smart enough to detect if, say, a Rathdrum resident went to the Starbucks there at Prairie and used the system?
Yeah, I think so. So when somebody filled out the responses, a lot of them used the QR code. He had that set up so that each of the responses as they were coming in, it would tell him where it was coming from. So for example, the largest respondent rate came from the email side that we sent out to our sewer bills. So there, we had, I don't know, it was around 2,500 of the ones we sent out were people that we had their emails, and we sent out an invitation to do the survey, and it had a QR code. That QR code had a specific number to it or whatever, so he knew if it was coming from that. And so there's some of that, it's not perfect. Ones that we put at the grocery store, they had a separate number, so we knew if they came from those packets, if they came from Facebook, and they used the QR code there. So he used as much technology as he could, but it was surprising to me that that the highest number, and I'll show you a slide in a few minutes, actually came from what we emailed out to folks, which I like that, so.
So Brett, can I ask
Yeah.
you a question? So of 1,200 respondents, and even if we just assumed that those are all solid, true Hayden resident respondents, with the population that we're assuming that we have at this point, is that enough to make decisions on?
Yeah, so the guy that did this, looking at, and if you do a true scientific survey, it's generally has to include randomness, and you can get a scientific survey of maybe, with like 600 respondents out of, 8 or 10,000, if it's a true scientific survey. In the way we did this, I think it would be a modified scientific survey. He felt pretty good about his margin of error here, which is pretty tight, plus or minus 2.8% statistical margin of error. He, as we discussed this, after getting the 500, 600, 700, the answers weren't changing. Meaning, once you get a certain level of analysis, the grouping and the respondents just were consistent even up to 1,200. So getting additional amount, as we talked about, he didn't think that would change anything. Had we gotten all 8,000 households, he didn't think that would change it. So we'll talk about the filters here shortly. I'll show that. You have the key takeaways here. City growth. Well, where we rated really high was actually when people were rating their neighborhood as a place to live and raise children, overall quality of life was, you'll see the numbers were really pretty good. It was pretty tight on right direction, and I think it reflects in like growth and traffic. We just barely got over 50% in the right direction. 68% on city growth say city is growing too fast. 31% say the growth rate is healthy. The one question, as I talked with the consultant multiple times, was on the comprehensive plan. That was the only anomaly in the questions that we felt like we weren't quite sure what was happening. Because as we talk, we believe that there's probably, in the neighborhood of 90% of the people in the city really don't know what's in the comprehensive plan. They just don't read it.
Brad, I gotta be honest with you, I don't find that odd at all. I can't tell, I've lived all over the United States and abroad. I've never read a city's comprehensive plan until I was on planning and zoning. Ever.
So I think it was on that question, when we get it asked, are you aware of the comprehensive plan? And then ask you whether or not, ask some questions related to that. And so I think the question is, or that word was wrong. If you ask aware, more people are going to answer, yes, I'm aware of what a comprehensive plan is. But I would say it's a high percentage of people really don't know what our comprehensive plan says. And there's a specific question on that. We'll get into that.
One more question?
Yeah.
Real quick, apologize to keep interrupting.
That's right.
You did ask an opinion question about the city growth. Was there any follow-up question to have anybody quantify what they thought the city was growing at? In other words, did you give them a choice to say, I think the city has grown 100 to 500 people, 500 to 1,000 people? I'm just curious if it's just really, are people aware between the actual hardcore facts of the city growing about 150 to 450 people a year versus just, I think it's growing too fast?
In the actual question on growth, we had to cut that one back. The council didn't want it to be a leading question.
Okay.
And I think if we put on there, are you aware that we only grew by 2.5% last year, that was going to be a leading question. And so we modified that.
Well, I think that's fair because the people that live in Nordman think that they're growing too fast as well. And the people in Priest River and St. Mary's, it's happening everywhere. It's not just Hayden.
Yeah.
So
I'm just curious how subjective it was. That's all.
Yeah, we really try. I mean, we had multiple meetings trying to look at those questions and make sure none of them were leading towards an answer. Housing was interesting when you look at it. There was a strong focus on single family, but there also was a strong take that a variety of housing types was important in the city as well. We'll talk about the specific intersections they wanted to talk about and the community center. High number of people were supportive of a community center. When you started getting into asking about how to pay for it, it started to drop off, but it still was a fairly strong support.
Sure.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Were there any, and I know I filled this out, but it's been too many months ago. Were there any questions about the concept of private organizations stepping up? For example, I know there's a popular coffee shop just north of here that some folks use as kind of a community center, and maybe having that as opposed to going out and building something new.
It wasn't nuanced. We used the term community center, but it did ask specifically. I think we had 12 different areas that you could put in a community center, and it talks about and prioritizes what they want, and I'll show you that towards the end. So I think I'll just dive into it after this key takeaways. So we'll go through. It starts off with some of the demographic information, and where this first question is. Where were the respondents? Where did they live? And we also had area sixes outside the city. And so according to this, again, if people were honest, about 4% of the respondents were from outside the city. And then you can see we divided up into some areas. And this makes a difference later on, that if you wanted to see how a certain area responded, you could just pick that area on that question, and it'll tell you how those folks rated that. So we obviously we couldn't come up with just every neighborhood, but we tried to get quadrants and to give folks an idea.
Are all of those zones approximately the same density, regardless of the size? Like is area four and area 2 have roughly the same number of homes?
No, as for example, one, there's I think that's probably a lower one. But we didn't try to say, okay, there's approximately this many households here. That was too hard. We tried to do it by where people might be able to identify easily. So demographics of the survey. So this is where the filtering comes in. I'm going to take this down just a tad so you can see it. So here's the demographics by age. You can see the highest age group that responded was in the 55 to 74. Gender, there were more women that responded than men. And then we asked how many years they had lived in the city. And I thought that was interesting, that the highest number were folks that had been here 1 to 4 years, which really isn't, that long in the scheme of things. And then the 20 plus years had a good response rate. Children, we were looking at, again, this was just, if people were responding about the community center, did the fact that they had children in the household, did that affect their decision? And then the residents, those that responded, it was a very high rate owned or buying a home in the city, 92%.
Brett, when you look at those results, can you see how the people who've been here 20 years responded as opposed to the people who've been here 2 to 4 years?
Yes. Yep, you can filter it. So not on this question, but when you come over here to the filtering, you can choose, for example, if you choose area 1, it's going to modify those automatically, and you can do this online. You can see it just changed the statistics. So the demographics of area 1 are now present.
When you did play around with the filters, did you notice a consistency in the responses between people that have been here 1 to 4 years versus 10 to 20 years?
Yeah, there's some patterns that you'll see, particularly on growth, and most all of them made sense to me. I mean, when you look at the folks that have been here for a while, a high number of them were not happy with the direction and with growth.
But the newer ones were maybe a little more tolerant of it?
The 1 to 4 were a little more tolerant of the growth. So, but, so that's, on many of these pages, you're going to have the ability to go in and filter this, however you want to look at it. I thought this was this is one of the reasons why we chose this company, is the software that they used, allowing the filtering. Plus they were just really sharp. I ran into them at a conference and talked with them for a while and said, hey, this looks like something we would want to do. Business owners, we wanted to see folks, how they might respond related to growth or otherwise if they were a business owner. So those were the demographic questions. I'll go through some of, well, you may have interest in all these. So refer a friend to the city. Again, you've got these demographic filters. You could go over here and just select, say,
Just the
how did just male respondents, would they refer a friend as opposed to female, or just put it back all combined? And you can see this is where we rated very high as a city, that most people, when you add up that percentage there, would be pretty likely to refer a friend to the city.
Okay.
So somewhat positive, strongly positive as far as the groupings, you take that, that's 79%, almost 80%. Okay, and then we asked why, refer a friend rating, and some of these are, might be because a negative reason. So ask comments about why they would or would not refer a friend, and to preserve an anonymity. Comments were grouped into themes. So these, as the consultant looked at it and got the responses, he grouped those into different areas. And again, you can use the filters if you wanted to filter by area or time in the city. But the neighborly, community friendly, the positive, stood out 35%, but then growth congestion as a negative there was a strong feeling from folks, about growth and retaining small town feel. You put little smiley faces, small town feels general, safe and secure. We got high marks on all of those. Traffic issues and growth, we got lower marks as a city.
Right, is there anything in the survey that gives us anything solid to go on because when you say small town feel, that may be a completely different picture than what Keith down there's pictures or what Donna pictures or what I picture.
Yeah.
And so is there anything that gives us a picture of what that's supposed to mean to the general public?
That's a good observation or comment. There really isn't. It's small town feel is very subjective, and you would hope that there's some commonality that between folks that if they say it feels like a small town to me, that there's some commonality. We could have tried to define it, but then when you try to define it, that those definitions might not fit what those folks think. So a lot of the questions, they're not all subjective titles like that,
Yeah.
but that one is.
Well, that's my concern because if someone's just freshly moved here from the west side, either the north coast or the south coast, this is a small town.
Yeah.
But for somebody who has lived here 20 plus years, it doesn't feel so small anymore. So how do we figure that out?
Well, and it's confusing on there. The second one is growth and congestion with a negative, and the third one is small town feel with a positive.
Yeah.
So they're contradicting each other between number 2 and 3.
Yeah, and keep in mind, when you look at the specific questions and the answers, you can see more specifics. The consultant tried to take what he saw and put them in these categories. So these were not specific questions. This was him categorizing what he found. So take it for what it's worth as you go down there. Once you get past, I don't know, when you get access to quality services, when you're in the 6 down to 1%, those are going to be a little bit less. Let's go here and see. So the detail on this question, there was the ability to actually write an answer. And not everybody did, but all of the answers that were written are in here. And when you go there, you can scroll down and read them all. I don't know, there looks like there's 25 or so. And it kind of gets to, as you read some of these.
I love
Yeah, the first one. And I didn't order these or this is the first one that popped up.
Anything with the word wacko in it, that's good. Quality reading.
See that part?
Yes, that person had some concerns, but 20 plus years in the city. You look at that one, and then the next one, hometown values, it gives you a little bit of 55 to 74 male. Don't live in the city, area 1, but that was the thing. Hometown values is what they liked. Conservative values, friendly, down to earth people. And again, he tried to make this quick, so he added a few little things like area 6, not in city, a female 1 to 4 years, so you can kind of see that quickly. But he just wrote those or typed them in as he found them. And I won't try to read all of those. I hope you go into the survey, you can read all of those. Those come straight from folks in the survey.
No, it'd be good to read.
There's another one where, it was a general one where people wrote comments at the end. And I would say, I was a little worried about that actually. And the council were like, no, just put them out there. Just, do it as is. The people's names aren't there. But for the most part, I thought there were some very positive comments. So this is a very specific one, direction of city. If you go down to the right, and this was on the executive summary, right direction 51%, wrong direction 49%. Changed in the past 3 years. Improved, stayed the same, gotten worse. So the sentiment there is in the last while, things have gotten worse. And I think when you look at the numbers for growth, I talked with a consultant, you look at the numbers for growth and particularly traffic. That's where you're getting the response that people don't like that. And as you mentioned, our growth rate, and Donna may have brought this up, our growth rate really has not been that high. If you look at the last 10 years, and if you look at the last 2 years, I think last year we were under 2%. I think we're on, we were like 1 point something, and then this year we're trending very similar to last year. So I think a lot of people are seeing, there's growth to the north, there's growth to the west of us, and that traffic is coming in through the city, and they think that's all growth in the city, and it's not. And even if we stopped or did things, that growth is not gonna stop. Those folks to the north that are in the county or from Rathdrum, if you ever drive on Lancaster in the morning or at night, the amount of traffic that folks from like Rathdrum are coming this way and then coming on 95, or they're getting on Government Way because they want to avoid the lights, it's gone up significantly just in the last few years. So anyways, this was a general question. Direction of city by zone. This is one he just put together. You can see
Pretty
by
consistent.
areas. Let's see, change by area. I thought it was, the folks from outside the city were not as hard on things as others, but yeah, it was fairly consistent on all those. Direction of city by tenure. So this shows right, wrong, direction by tenure. You can see that as you come across the 20 plus years, wrong direction is pretty high. The highest there was folks that had been here 5 to 9 years. And then the lowest, those that have been here for a really short time, I think direction is going great. Or if you don't live inside the city, the direction is going great. And then whether it's gotten worse or stayed the same again, you can see some of that consistency by how long people have lived here. So quality of life evaluation, this is where we scored really high. When you look at your neighborhood as a place to live, excellent and good, you add that up, 88% of folks, your neighbor's as a place to live. Hayden is a place to raise children, it's really high, 83%. Overall quality of life, still really high. So those are all good marks. Sense of community and is a little bit lower, I think, as you have, newer folks move in. I think there's going to be a feeling of a little bit less of a sense of community. And Hayden's a bedroom community. So when you think about it as a place to work, a lot of people are leaving the city and working elsewhere. And so I think that would probably account for a lower numbers on Hayden as a place to work.
Well, and your survey shows that we're a retirement community.
Yeah. The demographics of the folks that are moving in are
Retirees.
retired, higher age.
55 to 74 was the main number.
So,
61% don't have children in them. 80% not involved in business.
Yeah.
It's kind of scary.
And so those are the folks that are responding too, and you keep that in mind.
Yes. I know.
So feelings about growth. Growing at a good and healthy rate, 31%. And then we're growing too slow. Small amount, think we're growing too slow, and then growing too fast. And then again, if you want to go in, I won't try to do that now, but you can go in and use those filters and kind of see by area, business owner, children at home. You can have more specifics. This one didn't surprise me. I don't know, when you talk with people, in the city, again, it's been in the paper. People talk about, oh, traffic's gotten worse. Oh, growth is going too fast. And I think a lot of folks don't really understand the numbers, but this is the sentiment, I think, by folks. And so when I saw this, it didn't surprise me. If anything, I thought we're growing at a good and healthy rate at 31%. It was maybe slightly higher than I expected. So. City features.
Brett, what is a typical number for us to maintain in growth and be healthy as far as tax rates and not overkilling the population with taxes and things like that?
Yeah. And this is very subjective, kind of personal opinion. In the 1.5% to 3% range in there is something that I feel like we can handle. You start getting much over 3% and staff can't handle everything that's coming in. We're trying to keep up on infrastructure. I mean, we're facing that because we're behind already a little bit on that. But if you have zero growth, to me, that affects the businesses that are relying on, selling things, having their folks out there working in the trades. And if you don't have anything, then you have a community where people have to start selling their houses and have to leave the community, and people are out of work, and so you can lose that balance too. So but just from my experience, in that 1.5% to 3% is a good growth number. But zero is hard on I think is hard on your businesses.
Mm-hmm.
Brett, how important is it for us to have an idea what the growth rate is in the county? And if we just lumped it as the county, then that would pull in Post Falls and Rathdrum and CDA and whatnot.
Yeah.
How important is it for us to have an understanding of how rapidly, what their growth rate is? Because that does affect our traffic.
Well, it affects the appearance and the subjectivity of what people see. Because if you were to drive through Post Falls and you see all the apartments, townhomes, and houses that are going, and they're up all over. I mean, that's partly where people are getting the notion that, hey, we're growing too fast. The other is individually here, traffic. But to your question, is it important to understand what's going around us? Yeah. And we have those numbers. We look at them. We look at the growth rates each year of what the other communities are doing, and we're on the lower end for the last couple of years as far as growth rate. And Donna can share those with you. One of the performance measures that I have Donna doing, she has our numbers up to date per month. So like I do a monthly report to the mayor and council on all departments and our performance measurements and what we're doing. And Donna's performance measurements have a table in there that show the building permits that have come in year to date, square footage, commercial, light industrial, on residential, number of units, multifamily, et cetera. And so it's a table that we use, but we also probably once or twice a year, we pull out the growth statistics at the other cities and just kind of compare it. So I'll give that to Donna. She can readily get that. But
that building trends report is on the website under building department.
yeah, it's a wonderful report. In fact, Well, I'll stay on that comment.
What's the name of the report, Donna? What's the name of the report?
Building trends. It goes back to about 5 years.
Yeah, so Donna does a great job and it's updated monthly. So, city features, list one and list two. So we were trying to get an idea of what people thought we should spend, and this is more kind of council driven. What should we spend city resources, time, money, effort on doing? And so you'll see here, you know, what people thought we should do. Manage the growth density of the city was here was most important. Overall quality of road transportation system, again, very high. One that we did very well, overall feeling of safety in Hayden. The answers show that people feel like we're doing well and safe. Quality of parks and recreation opportunities is pretty good. Again, these are areas that people think are important. Vibrancy of downtown commerce area is pretty good. Recreational activities for children, community events for families, employment opportunities, and shopping opportunities. Now, there were so many that we ended up with a list too, and some of them do overlap a little bit. So when you, like this traffic flow on major streets, we asked it a little differently, but it's basically the same. And there'll be on my next slide will show the overall importance performance with those two basically combined. But well-planned residential growth is important to folks. Maintenance of streets is important. Quality of new development is important. Well-planned commercial growth, city parks and open space, all those that you're seeing there, I think, well, these are the top important items that people rated. And so when you come to this next one, it brings in the part about the excellent, good, fair, poor. And so you can see the strength of those. Again, the managed growth and density of the city, traffic flow on major streets were the two top ones that people thought were most important for the city to focus on. Well-planned residential growth was there. Public safety. But you can kind of get a sense there. There'll be an interesting one when I go down further about really the number one thing that the folks wanted us to focus on. It was Honeysuckle Beach, and I'll show you that slide later. But you can see how folks looked at what was most important to them. Again, you can use those filters.
If I go to leave, would you remind me I want to ask you a question about honeysuckle before I go?
Okay,
Thank you.
I'll make a note of it.
Thank you. I'll try to remember.
I live there, what kind of problem you got?
So here's the questions. Are you aware of Hayden City's comprehensive plan? Thoughts about next steps for Hayden City's comprehensive plan? Are you aware? No, 63%. Yes, 37%. So I think after we looked at that and I talked with the consultant again, this is the one question that I think didn't follow the pattern that we expected. And the only thing I could come up with is I told him, I said, using the word aware may have thrown this question off.
Mm-hmm.
And then thoughts about the comp plan. If the number were that most people were not aware of the comp plan, most of those, I think you get a better sense that, you know, do they want us to redo it here soon, or when should we do it? So, but the number shows not aware of comp plan, 63%. Plan needs to be updated soon, 21%. Plan is good as is and should be updated next 3 to 6 years, 8%. Unsure, have not read. So we kind of scratched our head on this one. I think it overall, there's another one that ties in with this that basically it's on the list of highest priority, and redoing the comp plan actually is lower on that one, and I'll get to that shortly. Thoughts on housing? I think this one's important for you guys to see. the city should be more concerned with loss of open space than development of housing. People like open space. And there's going to be something on for the citizens to vote on in November related to whether or not we pay for some open space. So
Whether we pay for what?
open space. It's a bonding measure that's, I think it's like for $53 million over a period of time that will be on the ballot for countywide to decide if, and then that money would only be used for purchasing ground on the prairie that would be then used for open space.
The city would own it.
Well,
It's
the county, or if they form some kind of organization to
the county
run
ballot
it.
measure.
But the county is the one that is putting this.
Yeah, I just didn't know who they were turning ownership over to.
City should allow only single-family housing on larger lots. 38% strongly agree, 27% somewhat agree, 18% neutral, and then somewhat disagree, strongly disagree, about 17%. And then this is the one I mentioned, let's see. The city should support a variety of housing types. 19%, 29%, and neutral, when you add those up, is if you take all of those, you're over 50%. And then you had
38.
somewhat disagree, 20% and 18%. So I think that would say that there is support for a variety of housing types. Community will benefit if we allow more townhomes, duplexes, and small homes. I think this gets to the concern people have with growth. There's a higher number that disagree with that. And the community will benefit if we allow more manufactured home parks. I think that's just, that one's a negative connotation for folks, and that had a pretty high, no, please, don't, that. No, please. This gets to, as you're looking at developments or things where people may be concerned with intersections. These didn't surprise us either, but we wanted to know, because this tool, basically the council can use and say, here's our priority of putting money towards fixing these intersections. And these are the ones that we are working on. So this actually fit well. We had 10 intersections. Hayden Avenue and Ramsey, if you think of that one, if you've ever been there, late in the afternoon, it's backed up at a stop sign trying to get through there, and then Honeysuckle and Ramsey. And both of those, Honeysuckle and Ramsey, we just submitted for a grant. Either way, that one is, we plan on building that roundabout next year. Hayden Avenue and Ramsey is a much more ambitious one, but is in design. But the right-of-way acquisition on that one is going to be expensive. And, but we've basically, we've asked the council, we've got our rainy day money, which is a little over $2 million. And then after that, we probably have around $5 million. That $5 million is for these intersections, as well as a chunk of it from the ARPA dollars. And so I'm hoping that we can knock out 3 of these tough ones at least with the money that we have. If we get the grant, we'll be able to do maybe 4 of these hard ones. So Honeysuckle Government Way, Hayden Avenue and Atlas, Wyoming Government Way on down, those are the priorities. But by far the 2 that were there, those are ones we're working on, and we have funding to fix, to put both of those in. Both of them we went through a process. We had open houses. Both of those will be roundabouts.
Do we include border intersections? Like, I don't see 4th and Prairie up there, which is maybe less of a issue than some of these others, but it's still a yucky intersection.
It is. The history on that one, and I think partly why we took it off, we had a grant.
Yep, and then they pulled out.
Dalton Gardens.
Yeah, we lost the grant to redo that, and so we've put less of a priority on that one for now.
Okay.
We did not include that one here, but I imagine some people might have.
No, I'm saying.
I think these are very, some more definitive on how we can use these. I think the council can specifically use these to prioritize and get projects done.
Look at little Ramsey and Dakota.
Community center thoughts.
Didn't approve.
Desirability of a community center. Again, this came in stronger than we expected. Very desirable, 34%, somewhat desirable, 28, unsure, 18. And then, about 20% were not very desirable and not at all desirable. Support using city revenues, very supportive, 28%. Somewhat supportive, 34, unsure, somewhat opposed, very opposed. Now, then we asked a little bit kind of a follow-up to that, support a tax levy, how to pay for this. And so 10% right off said yes, yes, depending on features, and yes, depending on the amount. And when you add all that up, you're over 50% of people who would support a tax levy for a community center.
That could also be no, depending on the amount.
Yeah. I mean, we had to, because we don't know what's going to be at. We couldn't, put an amount, or we didn't try to do that, but we tried to get a little bit of an idea of what people
I'm just saying, I
thought.
use that middle bar as truly neutral because that's a conditional yes.
Yeah, it is. Now, this is the thing I mentioned earlier, desired community center features. We asked if we were to do a community center, what is important, what would you want to see in there? So multi-use indoor facility, a senior center, sports court, it mentions those, kitchen, dining area, all eating reception rooms, on down. It surprised me that, some of these sports areas got less, were lower percent, but maybe that it refers back to demographic.
Absolutely, that's why I'm laughing.
So that gets to what your
Why would
point
you not
was.
want to waive them over a performing arts center?
You're looking at the demographics.
So that also,
I'm looking
looking at community center is something the council, based on this, will need to look at and consider.
I live in Coeur d'Alene.
Highest priority.
How are you on this?
I'm seeing a
Managing
pattern here,
population
Brett.
growth, traffic improvements, public safety. And that's where I said it dropped down to revising the comprehensive plan, 5%. The community center, even though it had strong, was, compared to these other top three, those were the things that people really were concerned with or cared about. So, and then this is the ideas worth developing. This is the one where we know Honeysuckle Beach is important. It's kind of, I always refer to it as the crown jewel for Hayden. I mean, when you look at that, we have access to Hayden Lake. But people want improvements to Honeysuckle Beach, and that is a priority of the council to do something with that, so that's in line. We have spent a ton of time. If you were part of the open house, and we looked at options of moving the boat launch and everything to the south. People didn't like that, so we regrouped and said, okay, we listened to the public. That's not an idea they want to do, and so now it's on the council's plate to look at some other options of maybe charging, doing some other things. But anyways, another one that was important that I thought was kind of cool, create a gathering place out of the 4-acre park here. So the plan is to move the Public Works to where Lakes Highway District property is. We have a contract there. Purchased that, and there's some things that are happening that we're hoping maybe we can get the ground as well. But that opens up this whole area to design a community space that would be like a community gathering place. People talk about that, and I don't remember if we showed you that video of. Did we show you a video of it was a concept. It's like a 2-minute video.
I don't recall.
Of a different.
It just shows an idea of what to do with this park.
Yeah.
And it was a computerized generated thing. I might be able to pull that up. Trying to think where it is on here.
I have a question on the boat launch. What's the limit? Somebody told me there was a limitation about sticking it to Washington people to try to use it as far as a surcharge. Do you have any idea what that is? Because that would probably make everybody happy if there was no Washington.
Well,
place.
yeah, what we
Yeah,
hear,
that'd be
the
great.
guidelines from the grants, you can't go more than double what you're charging the folks that are here.
We should definitely go double then if we're not. I don't know what it is, but.
So when the council looks at what to do down in Honeysuckle Beach, I think they're going to look at that that very thing, because the talk is in most of them, you know, let's increase the ability of the citizens in Hayden to be able to use that and decrease the desirability for people elsewhere to
We know who
use
they
it.
are. Yeah.
And that makes sense. And so what things can we do? So that's going to take a whole study, probably a rate study and some other things.
That's just part of the problem though, because there's still where an organization will drive a school bus up and unload it and pull out, and so it's a little more complex than just picking on the Washingtonians, I think.
It is.
Could you get away with saying it's $2 to use and Washington people are $4 and Hayden citizens get $1 discount? So it's only $1. I mean, then it's more of a disparity than just half.
The problem is you have to identify whether or not those Washington license plates own property here or not, because you can't discriminate against them based on their license plate. So a lot of those residents that use the boat launch, or those Washington license plates that use the boat launch, also own lake cabins or other property located in Idaho.
So that'll all be part of, regrouping with the council and, and reducing the study, so we're not like, well, they might look to
I see a lot of boat
something with the boat
registration
launch.
trailers.
But there's some ideas that came out of the first study on what to do with the boat launch and the beach, some designs, some thoughts and ideas, and they can go back to those or they can add some. But that'll be something the council will have to address. And they've chosen, so we have a list of priorities, and I think there's 8 items on there that are key. And one of them was to do the survey, which we did, and the other was to look at the comp plan. And they're in the middle of, doing that. If you've been following what council's been doing, some of that is come back to you. And so that's partly why we wanted you to have this, because council wants to engage you in some thoughts on the comp plan. So I won't go any deeper into Honeysuckle Beach, but I thought it was kind of interesting that ideas worth developing was that the park here, developed the community center was high, purchased land for additional parks, beautification, developed the barn at Stoddard Park, which our Parks and Recreation group, they're doing some work on that. Sports complex. So, and you guys are probably aware of this, the 19 acres that Hayden Canyon was giving to the city, we now own that through the signing and platting. Those 19 acres are ours. We budgeted some money to hire a consultant to start doing some planning on the 19 acres.
So that's just north of the school on Government Way?
So you know where the Hayden Charter School is, right?
Yep.
So it's just west of the school. So between Government Way and the Charter School, there's 19 acres in there. It goes a little bit north of the school too.
Okay.
There's a thing there, but.
My kid used to go there, so I'm familiar with the
Yeah,
property.
it's fairly flat. It's beautiful property. There's something really cool can go there, or multiple things. Can
Trout
go there.
pond,
What?
trout pond.
So, anyways, those were ideas worth developing. Let's see. Overview, anything more to say? So we asked for comments, and then the next one, I'll just scroll through. You can see.
There's that
all the-
pattern again, growth and traffic.
Yep, those are the growth, traffic, roads. That was nice. Gratitude for city officials. That would be you guys too. So all these written comments were at the end. It was kind of this general, is there anything else you'd like to add at the end of the survey? People wrote all kinds of different things. The consultant put them in these categories of what he found. And so here are the detail and the comments that were made. They're there for you to read. See if there's source. Okay, I told you this was the survey invitation source. The emails that we went out, 43% came back or were on the QR code for that. Signs, posters, flyers, primarily flyers that we put at Super One and Albertsons. Facebook, 18%. We've got, I think around 2,000 or something on Facebook connections. So people pulled that up. There was a QR code. People could just hit that and take the survey. So 18%. Newsletter, that was the surprising one. We mailed that to everyone, all businesses and every household. And that had a separate number. So if somebody did the QR code from the newsletter, is there? That was a lot lower than I expected because we mailed to everybody. So we put it in the paper, low, business email, low, grocery bags. Oh, that's the grocery bags one there. So anyways, that gives you an idea of the survey. Again, I would suggest, I'm going to show you where it is. I wasn't going to do this, but I'm just going to go to our website real quick so you can see. And you can pull this up when you want to, and you can use the filters. So if you just scroll down on the front page and go to citizen engagement, right there, results of the survey can be found here. Just click on that, and then what I just showed you, all of that will come up. And you can go through whatever page you want and click and use the filter. So we were really happy with the survey. You know, a lot of people, you know, could try to, you know, pick it apart and things like that. We spent extra time putting it together, and I think we received mostly, you know, positive comments for trying to reach out and getting some public comment from folks. And so now that we have that, I do think it's, you know, something that can be used. It's not, I think you have to use it
As a tool.
as a tool, just one of your tools as you're thinking about it. So anyways, I went longer than I expected now, look at the clock, but we wanted you to have an overview of that and have that as a tool, and there you go.
Brett, thank you for the presentation. Do any of the commissioners have questions?
That's fine along the way. Thank
All right,
If
thank you
do
again.
later, just, you can call me, you know.
you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Brett.
Reports, any reports, Donna?
I just wanted to kind of let you guys know that we're not having the first meeting in October. I'm actually on vacation, so sorry about that.
Well deserved.
We are going to have a meeting on October 16th. We have 2 public hearings. One of them's a conditional use permit amendment. Hayden will be presenting for the first time in front of the commission at that meeting, and on behalf of the staff. And then we have a zone map amendment coming forward as well at that meeting. So 2 public hearings. We're slated to have a public hearing for a preliminary planned unit development, either the first meeting in November or the second meeting in November. I'm not certain which one that's actually going to hit on.
I'll say something.
Okay, that's good. I would like to have a workshop with the Planning and Zoning Commission at the direction of the City Council, either before the 16th, so we could do it the week of the 9th. We can't have it on the October 9th or October 10th because that's a council meeting night and I'm coming back late the 9th. But we could have it on that Wednesday or Thursday of that week if you wanted to do a workshop on a Wednesday or Thursday. Or we could do it the week after our October 16th, which would be the
And the workshop is just planning and zoning, or is it joint?
just planning and zoning,
And the subject is?
potential amendments to the comprehensive plan. Possible, potential, possible.
It doesn't matter to me which.
So I'm just gonna send out a poll to the commissioners. I just didn't know if any of those dates were a dead no. I will skip those.
Thursdays are a dead no for me.
Okay, Thursdays are a dead no.
Thursday's a no for you, said? All right, yeah, we'll look forward to a
We're in
poll.
October?
In October.
So related, so related
You have to be here, so.
related to that, I'm sorry, I didn't want to cut you off. Actually, was that it for reports or no?
It is,
Okay.
just gotta kind of figure out what those dates are that we can get those meetings.
I did have one thing related I wanted to ask the commissioners about. I know the future land use map is a sometimes poorly understood tool in the comprehensive plan. And I know city council right now is working on ideas to potentially modify it. I wanted to know if the commission is interested in as an agenda item next meeting or as a workshop, potentially with the one that I just found out about, giving our take on the future land use map. I went to the last city council meeting that had a training session, and I learned that changes to the comprehensive plan actually originate in planning and zoning. And just by doing this 8 years, I'm still learning new stuff. So the point is, I personally, my style is to be proactive, and if there's an issue, let's throw them an idea instead of them throwing us an idea, and see, if, you know, and I don't have an objection to them throwing us an idea, and see if we've got good overlap, but I'd rather that, since that's one of our roles in life, I'd rather us take the bull by the horns and discuss it. But I certainly would love to hear from the other commissioners to see how you want to do it, if you just want to include it as part of a workshop, or if you want to make it a special item at the next meeting, or whatever your thoughts are. I think I laid the options out.
Just a thought, would it be more productive if we workshopped something like that together?
Not yet.
No,
No.
No?
no,
Maybe at some point, but not yet.
yeah, not preliminary. I'd rather us say how we feel as a commission,
Okay.
and say, here's our ideas unified. That way, we're all on the same sheet,
Okay.
at least to the best we can be, obviously. I respect everyone's opinion before we have to tangle with city council.
I agree
Okay.
with that 100%. We are their constituents, so we should be telling them what we want, not the other way around.
Well, we start the process there, you know, ultimately, we're accountable to the mayor.
So one of the purposes for giving you the survey
We serve as
results,
president, or, what's that?
one of the purposes for giving you the survey results is so that you can take a look at the feedback that was provided through the responses, and then look at the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan and make an independent assessment as to whether or not you think that based on those results, some of those goals and policies need to be adjusted.
Or added to.
Or added to, or removed, or if other goals and policies should be added.
In that case, if that's kind of the direction, I think the phlegm might accidentally get swallowed up by other things. I feel we should separate those. I'm specifically wanting to, again, I want to start off so that everybody on the Planning and Zoning Commission truly understands what the phlegm is, and not, I mean, I'm sure we do, but I just want to verify it. I just want everybody to be on the exact same sheet there.
So I don't think I'm understanding what you're asking for.
For the commission to discuss the future land use map as a planning tool for the city. And it was part of our comprehensive plan update 2 years ago. And obviously, everybody in the room did the best they could, painting out where areas were, how wide they should be, et cetera. I'd like to at least look at them and say, do we still feel the same way 2 years later? And if the answer is yes, then okay. But the future land use map's getting a lot of traction right now in this population. And so I guess I just feel compelled to review it and just see how we feel about it. Because it's going to come up, and to me, either we can drive it or we can react to it.
Well, I think the problem with approaching the future land use map first is the same thing I explained to council. The future land use map is just a visual manifestation of your comprehensive plan.
Yep, I know.
And so it just visually says on a map-based perspective, so you can see it in a different format, this is what our goals and policies are. So just be careful not to get in the trap of doing it backwards, because making adjustments to the future land use map, if that's the conversation you want to have, directly affects the words in the comprehensive plan and the transportation master plan and the sewer master plan and the parks master plan. So,
I'm aware of all that, but
okay.
again,
But these guys might not be.
That's my point.
I'm not,
It might be more educational than a discussion where we're actually debating things, because like you said, we don't put the cart before the horse. But the cart in this case is kicking up a lot of dust in the community. And I mean, we're citizens here. I know we're not elected representatives, but you know, we're supposed to act on the cities and the citizens' best interests. And I don't want to say go cruise social media, don't.
Don't.
But if you do, I'm telling you that the flum is a little hornet's nest. And again, I'd rather tackle it because it's obviously an issue with the public and not react to something that, say, city council says, here, look at this. And, you know, then we're kind of caught on our heels. I'd rather be on our toes.
Yes.
So I get that the future land use map and, no, wrong question. Is there a steering mechanism that gets visited on a regular basis to say, okay, we spent all this money, we asked all these questions, we made all these plans, but now it's a year later and we need to make some tweaks to it? Or is it 10 years later and we still don't make tweaks
It's
to it?
5. So 5 is your rule of thumb. It's 5 to 10, but you're supposed to start the process of analyzing whether or not you want to make adjustments to your comprehensive plan at 5 years.
So, okay, so then let's talk about the comprehensive plan then as opposed to the future land use map, because that's
The
what you were
future land
talking
use
about.
map is,
Part of the comprehensive plan.
comprehensive
It's in
plan.
You were
appendix
saying,
it is the
don't do
visual
the cart
representation.
before the horse.
It is the
So which
visual
one's the horse?
representation.
The horse would be the comp
The
plan
comprehensive plan.
and the cart would be the
The
flum.
words. The words are the
Okay.
horse.
Yeah,
Great. So when was the last time it was,
2 years ago.
okay, so you're saying we're not gonna
Almost
even
3
talk
years
about it
ago.
for 3 more years?
3 years ago.
3, sorry.
Pardon me?
So we're not even gonna talk about it for 2 more years?
No, that's what I'm
Oh.
suggesting is that we talk about it
I
now.
like that.
You can talk about it now. You can talk about it at any point you think. The Local Land Use Planning Act vests the authority to evaluate whether or not the comprehensive plan might need some adjustments or be changed in the planning and zoning.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I don't want to overhaul anything. We're talking
No,
little
that's fine.
tweaks, little
We're
tweaks.
Talking tweaks.
Little
but-
tweaks.
But going in a straight line is 1,000 adjustments, you know, tiny adjustments to maintain a straight line. And if there's no adjustments for 5 years, you're gonna hook or slice, you know what I mean?
And you're at year 3, so yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
So the
thoughts?
direction that Fonda gave city council, because they tried to put the cart before the horse, right? Was to go through your goals and policies. You know, they had the survey, look at what the survey results were, and then go through your goals and policies and see if there are any tweaks. And if you have any tweaks that you want to see made, or if you want to remove or you want to add, then you can email those to me and we can include those in our workshop discussion and answer how the comprehensive plan is put together. We kind of did a workshop on that. And truly, the flume is just one piece of the whole.
On this future land use map, didn't we go through a bunch of, I remember going through a number of hearings where we tweaked all of this multi-use dependent upon Hunter bypass actually happening. And it seems to be a lot of the heartburn is over all this purple.
Yes.
Shouldn't we put something in here to show that this is only based on if the Hunter bypass goes in as opposed to showing it? Because,
All parts of the conversation.
okay.
Yes.
But I think just because people like to order off the pretty picture on the menu and they look at that and they freak out. And if that
Yes.
was white and said to be determined,
So that
it would probably cause a lot less
the
heartburn.
information that you're talking about was actually tweaks that we did to the zone code. And the zone code is, you know, if you were to get a zone map amendment in that area from whatever, through an annexation, which is predominantly most of that area, then you would follow the zone code that identifies that because you're here. I'm not suggesting that we can't tweak
It's like
that
a
on the
little-
map,
little
but it
asterisk.
wasn't a comprehensive plan map amendment. It was a zone
map.
designation
Okay.
change.
So I guess, do we want to just tackle all this at that same workshop? Yeah, is that the consensus? Just to have the one workshop where we talk about all this? All right. Could I ask, please, that, even though I'm still talking about the cart and not the horse, that we, in the introduction slides or whatever training materials you come up with, to maybe make the FLUM very crystal clear to, planning and zoning.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I love the survey. I think it's great. It's very similar to what we talked about a year ago or more. But the thing is the hornet's nest that has been referred to, it's consistent. Every time these people come here and fill out their piece of paper, they complain about the same stuff. And it's basically two categories. One of them is stuff that they can't complain about. Like, well, I like the deer in that lot next to me, and you can't, it's like, well, sorry, somebody owns that and they have the right to develop it. So, and the other one is that they can develop it, that they can do certain things, you know what I mean? And so I think part of it's educating the public and saying, stop asking for things that are unconstitutional, basically, I don't know how you accomplish that. I don't know how you educate them, but I think the survey is a great example of.
So the survey was born out of these continued comments of a need to, it started with all of the complaints and comments about needing to adjust the future land use map based on subjective opinions. And so I said, well, if you want to look at making adjustment, you need objective data to rely on. The survey was born out of needing objective data
Or
to
something.
rely on that wasn't just a select few people's opinions. And so it was designed that way. It was designed to, it was marketed very well. You did get a great subset of responses for data purposes. And so now, because that's what it was designed for, that's what needs to, those responses and that information is what should be used by all of you, whether it's you guys or council, to workshop and discuss whether you have portions of your comprehensive plan that are inconsistent with the information you've now received. So that's what you're looking at.
Okay, any last comments from the commission? I ask everybody to hang out for just 30 seconds after I say we're adjourned. We're adjourned.